Hello everybody and welcome back to the Dice Tower. My name is Chris Yee and I'm going to be talking about 6 games I played so that you don't have to. These are games that I don't recommend. These particular ones I'm all rating 5 or lower. And I'm going to be talking about these in descending scale of my rating basically. The first one being the one that I find the most passable, and the last one being the one I find the worst. We do negative reviews here because this channel is about helping you as a shopper determine whether you want to pick up a game or not. So I'm hoping that this is useful for that reason. I'm going to make fun of these games a little bit, especially as I get closer to the end. But let's start with Armadillo. This is an Amigo game here. This is a dice rolling game where you're trying to roll dice to match numbers of cards in your hand and then discard them. It's an okay idea. I like a lot of these little Amigo games. The Llama Dice game is basically in the same, kind of from the same company and everything. And this one just lacks any real pizzazz. There's 3 different colors of dice representing low, medium, and high numbers. The cards in your hand have a color coding onto the cards there that match the idea of if you want to roll this high of a number, you probably have to roll 2 high dice. Or you could choose to roll any combination. You could roll 2 high and 1 low die if you think maybe that'll help you get that extra oomph towards that number. And then there's also in the cards that are kind of in the mid-ranges between, maybe you want to roll 1 red and 1 yellow because your card is orange. This is a clever little idea for kids, but it's not a particularly fun game. It has some smart ideas, like if you don't hit anything, you get a reroll token. Oh, that's a great idea, but it's just ultimately not that fun. Armadillo, okay, way better games from this company. Next, so that one I give a 5. Next up, Soda Smugglers. This is from Bite Wing Games. This is part of the Knizia Crime Capers trilogy. This is my most disappointing one of the bunch here. I really like Pumafiosi. I very much enjoyed Hot Lead. This one I don't like. This is a Sheriff of Nottingham style game, very blatantly. Now I know Sheriff of Nottingham is also not the original game of that genre, where one person each round is inspecting the bags of other people or letting them pass. But this one is such a small, subtle game. You only have a few cards. You can pick 1 card as a bribe. You can try to sneak 2 cards in. If the inspector takes your bribe, you go through. The cards are worth 0 to 3 sodas, 0 to 3 points, which is it's so subtle. There's no moments of excitement. Even a really good turn, you're like, woo, I got 6 points. And that's kind of it. Oh, I lost 2 points. Nah. There's so little to the game. There's so little excitement. It seems like there should have been something more clever. And this is one of the few games in this line. Well, this is the only game of the trilogy, I should say, where there are extra event cards in here that I think make the game worse rather than better, whereas the other 2, Hot Lead, Pumafiosi, I recommend those extra special little event cards. However, this does have some of the best production I've ever seen. These soda caps here for the victory points are so cool, and I hope they get repurposed for a different game. Also, this box is now going to be impossible to close because the bottle caps are so voluminous, but awesome. A 5 for me for Soda Smugglers. Next up, the Transformers deck building game. 5. This is from this is not from Cryptozoic. This is from Renegade Games. Matt Hyra, the designer who did the DC deck building game from Cryptozoic, designed this one. And you can tell it has a lot of the same DNA. But this one takes a very simple deck building game and then puts a whole grid to it where you have to move around and you have to have transformations between vehicle mode and robot mode. And then there's cooperative and solo and competitive rules right here in the box, and I have not figured out which one of them is actually fun yet. I've tried, and none of them were enjoyable. So 5 from me. This has too many fiddly rules for what is really a simple, basic deck building game. Go play DC Deck Builder or something instead. Picnic. This is a little game from DeVere here. It comes in a tin, and it has circular cards, which I know already makes a bunch of people say, I'm out, right? And this is a game where you're trying to speed match cards that are in the middle of the table. You're trying to play cards out from your hand that kind of match what's in the middle. I know a lot of you are already saying, I'm out. I like this type of game, speed Uno type stuff. The problem I have with this one is actually really a component, well, an artistic issue, a graphic design issue. You have a card in the middle, and you have to try to, if I'm playing sandwiches, for example, there's a sandwich on every one of these cards of a value. I have a hand of cards. I need to play out a sandwich card that is one value higher than what's in the middle. You're playing drinks. You want to play a drink that's one value higher than what's in the middle. And they all have different numbers, and that's fine. But they're also in different arrangements, and they have different pictures per category. So if my suit is sandwiches, I'm looking out of the card, there's 6 different types of sandwiches. For the most part, sandwiches look pretty similar, but there's 6 types of drinks, and the drinks are all over the place. Main dishes, one of them is a tray of French fried potatoes. Another one is mashed potatoes. Another one is chicken legs. They look so different that you're struggling not just to play this game, play this speed game. You're also sitting there going, is that my category or not? I can't tell from the pictures. It's such a weird move for a game that already has like tense stress kind of speed play to it, to then make it basically impossible to figure out what your category is. You end up having to not look at the picture, but instead look at the background of the tablecloth beneath it. I think that was a terrible decision for an okay game, a game that I might actually enjoy, but it's a 4 for me. I did not like Picnic. I didn't like having to explain. Your suit is French fries and green bean casserole and just all these absurd things. Looping! This is where I really start making fun of games. This is one of the dumbest card games I've seen in a long time. The theme of it is you're trying to race to the end of the roller coaster first. Aside from that, this has a fun artwork, this has a fun, appealing kind of looking cover, but basically you play a card out into the middle of the table, and then if it has a goofy action, everybody has to do it. That's fine. But you play out a card that says, like, everybody has to pretend you're on a corkscrew. Woo! Everybody, you're going down a deep incline, you have to hold on to your seats. Woo! Right? But, I mean, even those actions are not terribly, like, specific what that means, and it's not terribly specific, like, when did you not do it and then therefore incur the penalty? It's a bit ridiculous, right? But on top of that, most of the cards in this box are straightaways, which mean do nothing. So that's not really exciting. That's not that fun for a game that's already not exciting nor fun. And then there's also the inverse cart colors. So the cars, the roller coaster cars in the game on the little cars are like primarily orange with some blue. But if the card has an inverse color scheme of the card on the card, then if it's primarily blue with a little bit of orange, that means don't. So you can play a corkscrew card that means don't do the corkscrew action. And if somebody messes up, you got them. There's also cards that are don't on a straightaway do nothing action. The card functionally means don't do nothing. It doesn't explain what that means in the rulebook. We had to assume that means still continue to not do nothing. But don't not do nothing. It's a 3. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Lastly, the funniest game that I've played in a very, very long time, and that's very unfortunate. It's like B-movie funny. This is like Velocipaster Sharknado kind of funny. This game's called Noli. This is a simultaneous auction game that has a real-time dice rolling phase that also has a super important luck of the draw, take that, income phase. And at least it looks very pretty. Noli is a game that doesn't really have an identity. It's trying to be thematic about the fishing village of Noli over in Genoa. And I get that. It's trying to pay respect to that. But it does it in ways that don't make sense mechanically. It's almost like every bad mechanism that you could put into a game. You know, this is a serious, dry-looking Euro game with an auction phase. And now everybody roll dice as fast as you can. I have laughed a lot at that. I had to play this with 2 completely different groups of people to make sure that I wasn't the only one that found it humorous, and I was not. You are auctioning for 4 different things. One of them is victory points, the winning condition of the game. You might think that's the most important thing. No, the other thing you're auctioning for is to have more boats out on the board, which is more income, which is just draw more cards for income. And if you get more money at the income phase, then you have more money to win auctions. So it's a very blatant, obvious thing to do, to win auctions to get you more cards, which get you more money, so you can win more auctions. When you win more auctions, you can then win more victory points. So I forgot to say one very important thing about the auctions in Noli, which makes them extra terrible, is that everybody who bids anything on any of the 4 categories loses all of their money. Not just the winner. You could have bid second place, and you lose all your money, and it's really bad. There's a terrible thing to auction for, which is this this token that lets you take one of your dice that you're going to roll during your real-time dice rolling phase and set it to the buoy side. The 1 out of 6 sides of the dice is what you're trying to aim for. This little symbol on it. You can immediately set one to that side. Well, that sounds like a good idea, right? Except for the fact that you could have all 3 of those. You could be rolling 1 die, trying to roll the last buoy as fast as you can before everybody else gets it, and you could still absolutely lose that race, the real-time dice second phase of the game. Also, that phase doesn't matter, because if you come in first place in the race, you get to draw from the first place deck. If you come in third place, from the third place deck, so on and so forth. Those decks are not terribly different. Being first place in there doesn't matter nearly as much as having more fishing boats so you can draw more cards. I would rather draw 4 cards out of the 4th place deck than 2 cards out of the 1st place deck, which is just a horrible design decision because drawing 4 cards just means more money. Also, there's a bunch of horrendous take that cards in there. Destroy somebody else's tower, steal money from people, make everybody lose money. There's just so many bad ideas all wrapped up into this box. Speaking of the box, it says 4 players. 4 players only. And I thought, that's a bold move. I'm curious about that. And then you read the rule book, and it says, by the way, here's the 2 and the 3 player variants. Don't use the white color pieces, or don't use the white and yellow color pieces. That's not a 4-player game! By the way, this has the most hilarious, I'm sure that this is intentional, the most Italian rule I've ever heard in my life in a rule book. Coins are not limited in supply. If you run out of tokens, feel free to use dry pasta instead. This game gets a 2. I'm sorry, I did not really enjoy anything about this except for kind of laughing at how I was shocked, and just absolutely shocked at the decisions that went into making this one. It could have used a lot of development, some fun ideas. I mostly laughed at it. So there you go. That's 6 games that I would really not recommend. Worse, of course, here towards the end. But I hope that was useful for you as the purchaser of games to avoid getting bad ones. Thanks for coming by the Dice Tower. My name is Chris Yee. Have yourselves a great one.